It was a beautiful morning in Cubbon Park. The foliage glistened with the morning dew as the fauna awoke and started their daily activities. People had already begun to come in droves. Located in the middle of an urban megacity such as Bangalore, many people used this place as a getaway. Some went there to exercise and get fit, others to relax and take a break from their monotonous lives, and some to spend time with their partners, friends, or families. People were walking their pets, holding picnics, reading novels, and a plethora of other activities. Everyone was here purposefully, the purpose largely being to for just one moment be without one. Among, yet separated from this crowd, there was a man in a bright red sweater. What separated him was that he did not appear relaxed, as one might expect him to be on a Sunday morning in a beautiful park. This man, probably in his teenage years, sat on a bench as he toiled away within the pages of his notebook. Perhaps in a classroom or a library, he would have blended into the crowd, hidden by the others around him. But here, among the trees, he seemed as out of place as one could be. He stood out. As this brightly clothed man sat on that bench and racked his brain, many possibilities came to mind. He was most definitely a student of some sort. People would not willingly wear such a sweater were it not mandated by an institution. Not to deny that he did not carry it well, only that it was not what one would go for were it up to their choice. Either way, he was definitely a student. Perhaps he was from a rich family, a third or fourth generation graduate with high expectations from his parents to maintain their legacy. Or maybe he wasn't that well off. Maybe the expectation on his head wasn't to maintain a legacy but to create one. Normally, one can tell a lot about a person from a look. The clothes, posture, and facial features are great giveaways, but he was an array of possibilities. I could tell he was stressed, I could tell he was focused, and I could tell he was motivated, but I could not tell by what the cause of all these emotions was. I had this intense desire at that moment to know his reasons. What moved someone to ignore the rich and scenic beauty of that park and focus instead on a notebook? It is, as I witnessed myself that day, hard to resist the temptation to just lay there, among the trees, in the grass, looking up into the sky as wind blows over your face, completely in earth's embrace. That sort of peace, quiet, and serenity is rarely found now in the concrete jungles where we hunt for the next dollar. And this rarity makes it even harder to let go of such opportunities when they are available. Yet he pushed on. Perhaps the contents of the notebook were interesting. Maybe he was writing poetry or a novel. Maybe the exact reason that he was in this park and yet in his notebook was that the park had motivated him to write, just as he has now motivated me. The park is indeed quite inspiring. A budding author with hopes of seeing his own works on the bookshelves of the library he visits. If it is so, I would love to read this piece, which was more important and urgent than enjoying the tranquility of that space. Of course, the answer could be much more mundane. Occam's razor has quite often proven right in my experience. The simplest explanation is likely the correct one. It could just be that he is a high school student struggling with his math homework, and the reason he chose to come to Cubbon to do it was simply to find a better, more peaceful environment to work. Maybe he's just romantic enough to like the space, but utilitarian enough to make use of it, only to fulfill his purposes, and not for the sake of it. But I prefer to think differently. You see, earlier I saw a man sitting on a tree reading a novel. He too caught my attention. I wondered, just as I did for our focused penman, of his past and his purposes. But unlike him, this reader was unable to keep my attention. While reading, in my view, is just noble as an endeavor as writing is, I find it to be much more passive in nature. To me, it is much more attuned to the theme of rest and relaxation that otherwise envelops the park. Writing is active, and while it can be cathartic, I argue that it cannot be relaxing in the sense that it keeps the mind occupied. When one reads, the focus is on the narrative, on the story. The mind does not wander. It is but one removed thought away from being the treasured true meditative state. But when one writes, they must be creative. The mind grasps at every straw, randomly, in no particular order, to create. It is a state of beautiful chaos, and that is what I saw in that man on that bench. That is why he drew my attention. I saw a beautiful chaos.